A very good evening to all of you. वेलकम टू माय यूट्यूब चैनल। आप लोग सब लोग कैसे हैं? आशा करते हैं आप सब लोग सही होंगे एंड आप सब लोग घर में रहे और सुस्त रहे। थैंक यू एंड let us discuss today's topic, that is coefficient of variation. Coefficient of variation is one of the important topic of statistics. All of you know coefficient of variation used to measure the risk factor in any kind of investment. Coefficient of variation is very much important topic of statistics. Also it is very much useful for the people who are preparing for CIB exam, also certified credit professional, and also any kind of banking related promotion exam. We'll discuss with a very small introduction and it a very small case studies regarding coefficient of variation in a very simple way. Let us start. Coefficient of variation used to measure total risk per unit of return on investment. Coefficient of variation को हम कोई भी रिस्क को मेज़र करने के लिए यूज़ करते हैं। जो हमारे इन्वेस्टमेंट के रिटर्न होते हैं उसके ऊपर हमारा कितना रिस्क है उसको मेज़र करने के लिए हम कोएफिशिएंट ऑफ वेरिएशन यूज़ करते हैं। कोएफिशिएंट ऑफ वेरिएशन हैज़ अ वेरी सिंपल फार्मूला। कोएफिशिएंट ऑफ वेरिएशन इज इक्वल टू स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन बाय एक्सपेक्टेड रेट ऑफ रिटर्न। Remember this formula, coefficient of variation is equal to standard deviation divided by expected rate of return. Higher the coefficient of variation, higher is the risk, and lower is the coefficient of variation, means there will be less amount of risk. Let us go through the case studies where you can get more clear about the coefficient of variation. In the beginning of crop season, Akbar is the head of the family, has to make a critical decision to whether to cultivate sugar or cotton. At the beginning of crop season, mostly we are always think what to cultivate in our field, which will be beneficial, which have low risk, which have high risk, which have more return, which have less return. So in order to solve, Akbar told his eldest son Adnan to gather expected return on each crop under different scenario. So Adnan have to calculate coefficient of variation to get the expected return per unit of total risk per unit of return in investment. So let us go through it. Adhan estimate that if there is enough rain which has probability of 0.7. If there is enough rain, the probability is 0.7, and if there is no rain, the probability is 1 minus 0.7, that will be 0.3. If there is no rain, the probability is 0.3. The return on sugarcane could be as high as 25%. If there is enough rain, it will be 25%, and if it is low rain, that will be 5%. So if there is enough rain, means expected return on sugarcane is equal to 7 into enough rain, means there will be return is 25, and if there will be no rain, probability is 0.3 multiplied by return, that is 5%, that will be 19%. Standard deviation for cultivating sugarcane 16%. Coefficient of variation, standard deviation by expected return on investment, that will be 16% divided by 19% is equal to 0.84. Return on cotton would be as high as, if there will be high rainfall, the return on cotton will be 12%, and as low as 9% if there is not enough rainfall, or there will be low rainfall. So now by multiplying with the probability, if there is enough rainfall and high return, 0.7 into 12%, and if there is low rainfall and low return and low rainfall, that will be 0.3 into 20%. It will I will get 14.4%. Standard deviation for cotton, that is 9%. Coefficient of variation 9% by 14.4 is equal to 0.625. We know if there is higher coefficient of variation, means there is involvement of higher risk. There is lower coefficient of variation, means there is involvement of lower risk. In this case, while cultivating cotton, there is involvement of low risk. So since cotton cultivation has lower coefficient of variation, it offers less risk. So in this study, we found that cultivating cotton is more beneficial and involve less risk, as the coefficient of variation for cultivating cotton is less. So it is beneficial to cultivate cotton. So Adam will told his father Akbar to cultivate cotton. Thank you very much for listening to my lecture, and kindly like, subscribe to my channel. Stay home, stay safe.